Welcome. I'm Cheryl Mitchell, the president of Trellivan Inc. We're a retreat and learning center located on a sheep farm here in Addison County. And our mission is really to look at the issues of spirit and nature and social justice and how those things fit together. And it's been our amazing gift to be working with Building Bright Futures and Let's Grow Kids, because we believe that the way our community supports families with young children is really one of the most important social justice issues that there is today. So I'm thrilled that our guest today is Shayla Zammuto, who is the field coordinator for Addison County as well as other places, and she has agreed to join us to talk about what they're doing. So welcome, Shayla. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Cheryl, for having me.
Well, we're thrilled that you're here. And I should say to our audience that you told me earlier that you're still getting used to your new last name. Yes. And that you were married in September, so
yes.
I hope that I won't slip and you won't slip, but if we do, that's totally fine. Okay. So I'm wondering if you might talk a little bit about the overall concept of Let's Grow Kids. Why was the campaign started and what are its goals?
Absolutely. So for people who don't know, Let's Grow Kids is a public awareness campaign about the importance of the earliest years for Vermont's children. So we want a Vermont where every child has access to high quality and affordable childcare. You know, the campaign initially started out as a 3-year campaign, and we now know that we're projected pretty far into the future, which is fantastic because if anyone who has tried to make change knows, it takes a long time to make some change. And so we're really fortunate to have really great funders who strongly believe in Vermont's children and the work that we want to accomplish.
So when you say make some change, what kind of change are you hoping to accomplish?
It's kind of broad to say that, and I think you know, we know in terms of the statistics for early childhood in Vermont that childcare plays a really big factor for many, many Vermont families. We have all kinds of statistics. We know that right around 70%, a little over 70% of Vermont's children under the age of 6 have all parents in the workforce. Vermont's a really hardworking state, and so, you know,
we're one of the highest workforce participation states for parents. Is that right?
We are, yeah. Last year, I believe we were 6th in the U.S. for number of parents working, and so what that means for our youngest kids is that those children likely need to spend time in childcare 40 to 50 hours a week. If both mom and dad or, you know, whoever the caregiver is working 40 to 50 hours a week, someone needs to make sure that that child has access to really good learning opportunities. And, you know, far and away, it's really unaffordable for most Vermonters and really inaccessible as well. And we know that this is such a big deal because most of the brain development happens when kids are young. So 80% of the brain develops by age 3 and 90% by age 5. And those are really key years for young children. And so if those children, you know, need access to childcare, we want it to be as high quality as it can be. And, you know, we know that it's also pretty expensive. It's sort of a, you know, the campaign is working for it to be accessible for all children, but it's
when you say accessible, what does that mean? Like it's right next door, or it's at your workplace, or what does that term mean?
Would be wonderful. Even things like location. Childcare in general is so needed. However, the number of childcare centers and home providers who do childcare is not quite where we need it to be to fit the number of kids who need it. And so accessible can mean a number of things. It can mean affordable for families. It can mean, you know, in a location that's easy to get to for them. Depending on where you live in Vermont, transportation can be a huge issue. And so if it's an hour one way to drop your child off at childcare, that puts a real strain on a family. And so we basically want to take a really good look at the system and make sure that we can change it for the better for all of the children here.
And what about affordable? What do you guys have a definition of what affordable means? Or
it's across the board. We know far and away that childcare is expensive. We also know that most childcare providers aren't able to charge the amount of money that they need to because they can only charge what parents can pay. And so that puts childcare providers in a tough position. You know, they need to be able to support themselves and their family, but at the same time, they really care for the families that come to them, and they, you know, usually will only be able to charge what their parents can pay. And so what we have seen over the course of years is a lot of childcare providers leaving the field of childcare because it's just not sustainable for them. And so that's an issue too that we would like to address. So, you know, accessible can be anywhere from access to it to how parents can access it due to finances. There's a lot of factors that affect it.
So where are you getting your data from about, you know, how many folks are in the workforce or what they're paying or what it costs? And then what are you doing to try to get that information out? You said this is a public education
public
campaign.
education and awareness campaign. So our main goal right now is to educate Vermonters about how much of an issue this is, because I think if you don't have children or you're not working in early childhood, you're not necessarily going to know how much this affects Vermont in general. And so first and foremost, as a field coordinator, that's my job, is doing a lot of trainings and doing a lot of outreach. I'm so sorry, I forgot what you asked me initially.
So it was both, where do you get your data from about what's going on, and then how are you trying to get that information out to the public?
Perfect. So we get a lot of our data from both the Department of Education as well as local sources like Building Bright Futures. We have a data and policy analyst on our team who just finds this amazing data and pulls it together and really sort of crunches numbers to give us a comprehensive view of what it looks like in the state. And we partner with many, many different groups so that we're all sort of working together to get the most accurate and up-to-date data that we can. Being data, though, it changes very frequently. And so we have, you know, all of last year out in the field when I'm doing the public awareness piece, we had statistics that were up-to-date and wonderful and to the minute. And then, of course, now it's 2016, and so we're getting different data. But the important thing for us is that...
Is it looking better or worse?
It's,
or can you
it's
say?
a little about the same.
About the same?
The public awareness piece of the campaign, we know that we're taking lots of steps in the right direction. So from our polling research, we know, we polled Vermonters initially right when the campaign was about to launch, and then we polled again. And we're getting ready to poll a third time. And we know from those numbers that the work that we've done out in the field, the events that we've gone to, the trainings that we've hosted, Vermonters are sort of moving in the right direction in terms of their awareness. So it's really promising, it's really great, and the more events that we're allowed to attend and the more trainings that we give really helps sort of Vermont understand how much we're working with and what needs to change on a broad level.
I mean, I got to attend one of the events that you did at Field Days, which was totally fun, where lots and lots of people stopped by and their kids played a sort of childcare chutes and ladders game. Can you describe some other kinds of events that you do?
Yeah, so we, as a field team, there are 4 of us total, including myself, whose job it is to sort of divide up the state and basically get into as many public events as we possibly can. And so we will hold our own events sometimes. We try to attend events that have a strong family focus. We also try to attend events that don't have a strong family focus, with the goal of reaching as many Vermonters as we can. So we participated in every single county fair this year, which is a lot.
Every single
one.
Wow.
It's a lot of weeks of cotton candy and fried food. But you meet a lot of Vermonters. It's a great place for people to gather. And so, we do fairs and field days. We do things like wellness days. Last summer I came down here, Burlington Labs hosted an event on the green, and I was there for that. And so pretty much anything where, we have people to talk to who we can educate on this issue, we really want to be involved with. And then aside from attending other people's events, we do host a lot of our own as well. So this past November, we had a series of 7 community forums, which
I got to go to the one in Virginia. It was fantastic,
And those are amazing. We selected 7 places. We invited as many people as we could think of. We got the word out. And then, we had probably about an hour and a half of just really solid talking about the issue. And what we wanted was for Vermonters who live in, their home state of Vermont to tell us how they feel about it and their experiences with it. Because the more information that we can get, the faster we can move with this. And so far and away, every single forum was successful. We heard over and over again that people really appreciated them. You know, there were towns that we weren't able to have a forum in who contacted us and said, we want one of these in our area.
Oh,
and we're like, great, we'll do it again. So it's really nice. And, you know, it lets us pull together people and hear their stories when we might not necessarily have heard from them before. So it's really rewarding.
And I know one of the goals, and we'll come back to this later, but you were hoping to have people who come to these events understand enough that they're willing to sign a pledge.
Yes.
Can you talk to us about the pledge and why you decided that was an important thing to do?
We absolutely, I absolutely can. And so the pledge, for those of you watching, this is what our paper version looks like. It's very, we try to keep it pretty brief and pretty easy. We also have an online version of it. And what our pledge is a statement of support, basically. So you don't actually sign it. There's no signature on it. And I can read it to you quickly if you'd like.
Sure, that'd be great.
It says, I want a society where all children can grow and live to their full potential. Because 80% of a child's brain develops by age 3, building the foundation for success in life, I believe it's important that we ensure that all of Vermont's children have quality early experiences. Therefore, I support efforts to build positive, lasting change that will allow all of our children the opportunity to succeed in life. And this idea of a pledge is not new. So what we did was, in order to sort of grow a base of support around the early years, we have this pledge. And basically, we modeled our campaign after other successful campaigns in Vermont. And to sort of build a grassroots movement like we're doing, you need a lot of support to do that. And so we set our goal at 10,000. And to have 10,000 supporters is a pretty big deal.
10,000 supporters, okay.
Yes, 10,000 supporters, 10,000 pledges.
Right.
And, you know, the population of Vermont is a very small state, but it's a really amazing state. And so other successful campaigns in the past have had supporter bases around the 10,000 mark. And when you are trying to make change on a you know, statewide level, when you go to the State House and say, you know, this is a big deal, this is something that is a very important issue, and we have 10,000 people who live in Vermont who think it's also a big deal, they tend to take notice. Yeah, exactly. And so we're very close to 10,000, which means we will likely increase our goal because it's really a great issue to get behind. And so signing the pledge, which is basically filling out your name, where you live, you know, any type of demographic information you'd like to share is fine, but really it's just about saying, this is an issue I believe in.
And people can sign it and they can be contacted later or not contacted later. It's kind of up to them.
Exactly. Yep. We have a lot of people who, you know, people are busy. This is a very busy time of life. And so a lot of times people are like, you know, this is a great thing to do. I would love to support you, but I don't have a lot of time. And that is totally fine. People just sharing their name and the town that they live in with us is wonderful. And then there are other people who take, you know, a really strong interest in it and say, hey, what can I do? How can I get involved? And on our pledge, you can say, like, I'd like to become a volunteer or an ambassador, or, you know, I go to a Rotary presentation, or I have a Rotary group, and I'd love to have you come talk to my Rotary group. There's a lot of different ways that people can get involved and sort of help us if they're interested in that too. But it's very individual. If people want to get involved, they can, or they can simply be a pledge signer and really help us move in that direction too.
Great. And I think the information about the signing the pledge online will be in your contact information at the end, and copies of this will be downstairs in the library.
Absolutely. Yep.
And people can call you.
People
right,
can call
if they
me,
want
yes.
a pledge. Okay.
We are very, very available. We try to be as available as we can. And so any questions, email, phone calls, our website is a wealth of information. Right when you click on our website, you'll get a sort of a banner across the top that lets you know events that we're doing, a link to signing the pledge online. So it's very user-friendly, lots of great colors and facts.
Great. So you've talked about events. There are other things that you do as part of the campaign, is that right?
Yes.
Like
oh my goodness.
PSAs, or can you tell us some of the other things?
Sure. Well, right now, you may have seen we have a couple of commercials out. We have one right now that's called Tough Choices. And we really try to be as many places in the state and as many sort of venues that we can. So we'll do letters to the editor. We will do, we had a great ad on Pandora for a while, which would be funny because I'd be cooking in my kitchen and hear our music in the background, which is pretty fun. And we try to reach people on a local level. So we'll do a lot of, we've had a couple commercials on, local TV stations that sort of bring up the issue of high quality childcare. And, we really try to meet people where they're at and get as many people interested as we can that way.
And you've also been going around the state and capturing people's
small
stories.
Talk.
Can you talk
Yes,
about that? Yeah.
I almost forgot about Small Talk. So this year we started a brand new initiative called Small Talk. And what we wanted was to be able to capture people's stories of their experiences with early childhood on video. And it's turned out to be this incredibly powerful collection of stories from a wide range of Vermonters. So, we have people in the early childhood field, we have home providers and center directors and teachers, to people who have come up to us at events and seen this really big pink and blue van and said, hey, what's that all about? And then we talk to them and they have these amazing stories about the struggles that they've had and they would like to share them. And so we get these, the interviews are about 15 minutes and people really get a chance to express how they've experienced early childhood in Vermont. They get to suggest ways that they would change it. We talk about a magic wand a lot at the campaign, what you would do if you had a magic wand to change early childhood. And people are really interested in that. And so we've got tons and tons of videos, some of which are still being edited from the summer, that really sort of show how diverse this issue is, no matter where you are in the state. This issue affects people from super, super north and super, super south to everywhere in between. And so that was one of our big things that we did this summer, which turned out to be really great.
Right.
Yeah.
And can you talk to us a little bit? You had mentioned both campaign volunteers and campaign ambassadors. What's the difference, or how do they fit? Who are they and how do you get to be one?
So they are the backbone of our campaign. Volunteering and becoming an ambassador sort of go hand in hand. The ambassador is the term that we use for our volunteers. And these are the people who, have just signed us up to attend the Vermont Farm Show at the Expo up in Essex Junction. And I sent out an email to all of our ambassadors saying, hey, I'm going to be there for 3 days tabling. If anyone is interested in helping me, we'll get to play with a lot of kids. We'll have a giant Chutes and Ladders game. And people write back and they're like, absolutely, I'd love to do that. And so, that's one example of a number of ways people can get involved. So our ambassador program, we've actually just sort of beefed it up, and we have an incentive program that people can participate in if they're interested in. So everything from, volunteering at 3 separate events earns you a travel mug, or writing a letter to the editor, or even things for people who, can't necessarily leave home. They can share posts on social media. So it's very tailored, again, to people. We want people to be able to help in any way that they can and make it easy and fun. And so the ambassador program also lets you stay up to date with the campaign. One of the things that we really like to say is that we're a very nimble campaign, and we have to be. You have to be able to sort of be on your toes and move when you need to. And so sometimes we have to make things happen on short notice. And the wonderful thing about ambassadors is that when we have something like that, we can put out a call to those people who are really, really interested and get a ton of response and say, we need help. And, people just come in, whether it's things like, we sent out mugs for Provider Appreciation Day last year, and surprisingly enough, packaging and mailing out hundreds of mugs is time intensive, shockingly enough. And we had a great time. We had people come into our office, we had music going, everyone was chatting, and just having a good time, thanking the providers in the state, for the hard work that they do.
And some of your ambassadors, like on the last show, we talked with Jody Brakely, who's a pediatrician in this town. Is that a different level of ambassador, or she does different things?
She's definitely an ambassador. And the wonderful thing about that program is that Jody helps us, in immeasurable ways. She is obviously very up on the brain science of early learning. And so she, as a member of our Speakers Bureau, will speak to groups of people. And that's another way to be an ambassador. So, there are people who love to table and go to events and have fun, but who have no desire to speak in front of people. And that's totally fine. Right. We know that.
So you have plenty of roles.
Yes, lots and lots of roles. Yep.
And you, last year, you were involved with town meeting day.
Yes.
That's going to happen again? Can you talk about sort of the local groups and
Absolutely.
relationship with town meeting?
Yep. So last year we organized a giant town meeting event. We had volunteers at over 80 polling locations in Vermont, which is really incredible for our first year kind of event. And this year we're going to do something very similar to that. So last year we had people at polls handing out information. We had a K readiness handout. And we really just wanted to engage a lot of Vermonters and let them know that we're here. And then this year we are doing something pretty similar, but it's in support of the Blue Ribbon Commission. And so before I jump into the town meeting day, I should
tell us
probably
about what
explain
the Blue Ribbon Commission is, right?
So the Blue Ribbon Commission is a group of really invested people in the early childhood field as well as outside the early childhood field. So they're experts in their area, and it's a group of people who are meeting over the course. They've already started their work, which is amazing. They've already done a ton. And over the course of the next year, they will work to identify how much high-quality, affordable childcare costs and assign a dollar value to it, and then identify funding sources.
Wow.
They have a giant task on their plate.
And when is their work
So they're going to
done?
wrap up around November of this year. And
2016.
2016, yep. And so that's when their report will be due. And so, you know, they're going to be looking over the next year at as many possible things concerning high quality and affordability and cost as they can. And so to support their work, we know that they need to hear from Vermonters. You know, the beautiful thing about a commission is that they're all volunteers. They come from varying parts of the state and different departments. You know, we've got a home care provider, a center provider. We've got someone from the Building Bright Futures Council, military family member. So it's varying in terms of where people come from. But the most important part is that they represent our state and the people who live here and the kids who need to be served. And so what we want is for them to hear stories from the Vermonters in their towns about their experiences with it. And so in support of the Blue Ribbon Commission this year, our big town meeting day event is going to be all about making sure that they are supported and that they know that they're doing amazing work and that we appreciate it. And so we're hoping for even more volunteers and more polling places this year. And our volunteers will be there at the polls or at the meeting, depending on, because each town meeting can be a different time. And they're going to have postcards for people, and they're going to explain what the Blue Ribbon Commission is doing, you know, ask for support in their work, and mainly the support that we're asking for is for them to share a story or a thank you. And so we'll have a little small postcard that asks people to share their experience and just say a quick thank you. And you will have information that people can take home if they want.
And you're organizing sort of teams of people in the different counties.
Yes.
Can you step back for a minute and tell us, how did you come to be doing this work? And
Yeah,
how come
sure.
you're working with Addison County?
I have to say, Addison County, I live in Chittenden County, and as a field coordinator, I cover Chittenden, Addison, and Rutland. And Addison has a very soft spot in my heart. I travel down here a couple times a week, and the people that I've met are just so welcoming. And so, like today, for instance, I'll spend the rest of my day at Carol's Hungry Mind working from my laptop before my next meeting. And I just love that, I can do that and that I see people I know when I come down here. I started in this field. I went to St. Lawrence and I graduated with a degree in psychology. And I have, over the course of my career, sort of vacillated between working with animals and working with children. Not sure why, but those are my two apparent loves in life. And so being recently married and starting a family, hearing about the Let's Grow Kids campaign, I was like, oh my goodness. Again, because before I was even thinking about children, I had no idea, that childcare is hard to access and it's really expensive. And so, as I was sort of getting into this whole family mode and new stage of life, I was like, look at this, here's this position that's open for this great group of people who is really working to make solid change. I want to be a part of that. Like, that is exactly what I'm looking for. And so it's just been wonderful.
Oh,
this is
great.
just a fantastic group of people. Everyone is invested, and it's sort of, when friends and family are like, what is it that you do? And I tell them, I'm working, for high quality, affordable childcare. They're like, well, that seems like a no-brainer. And I'm like, I know. Here, sign this pledge.
Sign this pledge. So let's go. You're organizing folks here, both for many of the things that you talked about earlier, but especially around town meeting day.
Yes.
Anything more that you want to say about the pledge before we run out of time here?
No, just that if you know, to anyone out there who thinks that early childhood is very important, which if we had more time, I could go into all of the reasons. You know, early childhood affects more than just parents and providers. It affects the entire state. It affects things like...
We've had a couple of business leaders on who have talked about how important it is for business.
Exactly. So everyone probably knows a little bit about this. But so even if you don't have kids, and even if you know, if you're not going to have kids, or if you're a grandparent, or you know, just kind of take a minute and go over the website and see exactly what it is that we're doing, because even I think when people think it's an issue that doesn't affect them, it actually does. And so just to kind of be open and do some research.
Okay. Well, Shayla, thank you so much for being on the show today. I know we could talk for a long time. And thank you to all of you who are watching today. We really hope that you'll follow up if you're interested. Shayla's contact information will come up in a minute. And we also wanted to thank Middlebury Community Access Television for making it possible for us to get this information out to you. They're incredibly wonderful to work with. And if you have public education information that you would like to get out to the public, you should give them a call. They're fabulous to work with. You don't really have to know anything about television. They'll teach you everything you need to know. And we hope that you'll get engaged with early childhood issues in whichever way makes most sense to you. So thanks again for watching today. And thank you, Shayla, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.